Close your eyes and imagine a time when the world was darker, quieter, and ruled by shadows. The year is 1090. You are standing at the edge of a mountain stronghold in Persia. Far below, kingdoms rise and fall, but here, in this fortress above the clouds, something deadlier than an army stirs. These are not knights, not kings. These are the real assassins. Silent, calculated, and invisible. And tonight, as you drift into sleep, we journey into their world, the secret brotherhood that inspired centuries of legend. In the mountains of northern Iran, nestled deep within the Alborz range, stood a fortress called Alamet. From a distance, it looked like a silent castle lost in time. But inside its walls, a man named Hassan Isaba ruled with unmatched brilliance. Known as the Old Man of the Mountain, he led a secret order called the Hashashin, the true inspiration behind the myth of Assassin's Creed. But this was no video game, no fiction. These men were real, and they changed history with nothing but a dagger and devotion. They followed a branch of Islam called Nizari Ismailism, and they saw themselves as warriors of justice, though to many they were ghosts of terror. Their targets were not common soldiers. They struck leaders, generals, sultans, always with precision, always with silence. And what made them even more terrifying was not how they killed, but how they lived. Hassan Isaba trained his followers to endure any hardship. They lived simply. No luxury, no distraction. Their minds were shaped like blades, sharp, silent, and focused. They memorized every stone in the fortress, practiced walking without making a sound. They studied languages, architecture, geography. They trained not to fight armies, but to enter palaces unnoticed. Legend says that many Hashashin took on their missions knowing they would not return. Their reward, they believed, waited in paradise. That belief made them fearless. Rulers locked their doors, slept in different rooms every night, hired food tasters, but it was no use. When the Hashashin chose a target, it was not a matter of if, only when. One story tells of a powerful vizier who, despite heavy guards, was found one morning with a dagger on his pillow and a note, "This time we spared you." The fortress of Alamet became a symbol of mystery and menace. And yet, it was also a place of learning. The Hashashin kept vast libraries. They preserved knowledge during times when books were burned elsewhere. They trained the mind and the body. To them, the blade was only as strong as the thought behind it. Their weapons were simple daggers, poisons, disguises. But their greatest weapon was fear. They never attacked in public waves, only with the whisper of a shadow. Their method was psychological. If 10 men feared them, they only had to kill one. The rest destroyed themselves with paranoia. In one of the most chilling examples, the great Seljuk vizier Nizam al-Mulk was killed by a man disguised as a wandering scholar. As he bowed to present a book, he plunged a blade into the vizier's heart. Then the assassin waited calmly to be killed. Not out of recklessness, but out of purpose. Mission complete. The word assassin comes from this group, the Hashashin. Over time, their name was warped through languages. But the meaning remained: killers with a cause, controlled, exact, chosen. Despite their shadowy tactics, they were not mindless murderers. They chose their targets carefully. Never for personal gain, always for strategic or spiritual reasons. Some say they avoided unnecessary bloodshed, that if they could make a ruler resign through fear, they would not spill blood at all. Life in Alamet was harsh but focused. Every morning began with meditation, then training, then study. The fortress was self-sustained. They grew their own food, repaired their own weapons, trusted only each other. Brotherhood was everything, and their methods worked. For nearly 2 centuries, the Hashashin resisted empires. They survived invasions. They faced Mongols, Turks, and Crusaders, and yet remained rooted in their mountain fortress. Even the mighty Saladin, warrior of legend, feared them. When he resisted their demands, he awoke one morning to find a dagger planted beside his bed inside his tent, surrounded by guards. He never questioned them again. Where death wore no armor, made no sound, and left no trace. Imagine standing in a marketplace, knowing anyone around you could be one of them, watching, waiting, already chosen. The Hashashin were not many, but they were enough. After him, other masters ruled. The creed lived on, hidden, patient, eternal. So tonight, as you breathe calmly and close your eyes, remember this. Some warriors fight with armies. Rest now, for in part 2, we will return to the mountain, to a moment when everything changed, when fire touched stone, when betrayal shattered silence, and the last assassin stood alone. The fortress of Alamet still stood silent, unshaken, and stubborn against time. But change had already begun to seep through its stone walls. Far away, a shadow even darker than the Hashashin was sweeping across Asia. It came not by stealth, but by storm, the Mongol Empire. Under the command of Hulagu Khan, brother to the Grand Khan Manji, the unstoppable force of the Mongols was moving west. Their targets were cities, strongholds, knowledge, and fear itself. And deep within their path stood the impossible fortress of the assassins, hidden among the mountains, invisible to the world, but not forgotten. By the mid-13th century, the Order of Assassins had lived for nearly 200 years in the heights of Persia. Their presence was felt in royal courts and enemy palaces. Their methods had not changed, nor had their resolve. But empires shift, and even legends are tested when the earth itself trembles. Hulag's army was not like any enemy before. It did not fear whispers in the dark. It did not flee from daggers in the night. It came with fire, steel, and thousands of horses thundering through the valleys. Inside Alamet, the assassins prepared. Their leader at the time, Imam Rukin al-Din Kershaw, was a man of learning and patience. He had inherited the command of a network of hidden fortresses across Persia and Syria. He had knowledge. But what he lacked was the certainty of Hassan-I Sabath, unshakable steel of the order's founder. Kershaw knew the Mongols were different. He knew resistance would mean destruction. And yet he also knew that surrender came with its own price. The Mongols began their approach. They sent letters, messengers, warnings. They demanded the end of the order, total surrender, complete dismantling of the Brotherhood, the destruction of libraries, schools, weapons, and records. Kershaw hesitated. He sent replies, requested peace, offered gifts. But the Mongols did not pause, and the mountain fortress, once thought to be above conquest, became a target marked in blood. Hulagu sent his army up the rocky paths. Siege engines, catapults, flaming arrows. The same devices that had destroyed cities like Nishapur and Baghdad now pointed toward Alamet. The assassins inside did not run. They did not scream. They sharpened their blades, lit their lamps, whispered their creed. For over a week, the fortress held. Arrows rained down. Stones shattered walls. And still, the defenders stood firm. For every man on the wall knew the truth. They were already legends. Their purpose had already been fulfilled. What happened next would not erase what they had done. But inside the fortress, reality changed quickly. Supplies ran low, defenses cracked, messengers never returned, and the sky grew darker with every passing hour. Kershaw, realizing the fall was inevitable, sent word that he would surrender. He pleaded with Hulagu for mercy. He offered total submission, and with it, the keys to Alamet. Hulagu accepted. But mercy is a word with no place in Mongol vocabulary. They tore it down. The vast libraries, the ones said to hold ancient secrets, sciences, and strategies, were burned. The The scrolls turned to ash, the manuscripts crumbled. Histories disappeared in flame. The brothers of the Creed were executed. Some were sent to distant lands in chains. Others vanished into legend. Kershaw himself was eventually executed, his surrender remembered not as peace, but as the end of an era. The fall of Alamut in 1256 was more than the destruction of a fortress. It was the silencing of one of the most unique movements in history. The Order of Assassins had operated like no other power in the medieval world. They showed the world that even the smallest dagger, held by the quietest hand, could shape the fate of kingdoms. But even the most silent shadows cannot hide forever from the fire of an empire that consumes everything. Travelers returned with tales of the old man of the mountain, of men who climbed palace walls with bare hands, of rulers who slept with a dagger beneath their pillow, not to use, but to remind themselves that the Hashashin might visit. Some believe remnants of the order scattered across the world. That knowledge was hidden, passed down quietly, generation by generation. That their principles, patience, precision, purpose never truly disappeared. They simply changed form, became movements, ideals, philosophies, and in this quiet rebirth, they lived longer than the empire that destroyed them. Tonight, as you lie still and your breathing slows, imagine the last brother of the Creed standing alone in the broken halls of Alamut. Fire glows outside. The sky is red, but he is calm. For that is the assassin's true gift, not just the ability to kill, but the power to endure, to remain, to outlive. What made them deadly was not hatred. It was focus. It was faith. It was the willingness to sacrifice everything for an idea. So sleep now, knowing that somewhere in the distant mountains of history, beneath the ashes and dust, a creed still echoes. It says, stay hidden, stay ready, stay true.